The kids these days say, no risk, no Rari. Now my head is exploding going, what's a Rari? Luckily, the Wall Street Journal has my back and tells me that a Rari is slang for Ferrari, right? I can guarantee this guy's going bust.
This podcast contains the arguably witty banter of two friends, Skippy and Dougals, that like to debate about investing. The content is intended to be entertaining and for informational purposes only, not investment advice. You should do your own research and consult a financial professional before using any of the information in this podcast, and especially before investing.
We're back with another episode of Skippy and Dougals Talk Investing Podcast. Before we get into this, please follow, subscribe, please rate and review the show. Gives us better discoverability out there in the market. So super, super helpful. Please rate and review. And then follow us. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We got a Substack. We got all the things. If you're on a platform, look for us on that aforementioned platform. Thank you very much. Are you ready for today's episode? Are you ready?
So ready. I get to yell at you like 3 times. It's going to be great.
Okay. I love getting yelled at. Here's what we're hitting on today. We're going to start off tying a little bow on what we talked about last week around private equity. Yale University sold some private equity. And then we're going to go into some listener mail, student loan debt repayment. Whew, juicy. Some YOLO investors out there. We're back. Is it 2021? We back. YOLO investors. A really, really quick hit on this timepiece on Trump's first 100 days. We're going to talk expectations and then wrap it up for premium listeners only. To get a premium subscription, go to skippydougals.supercast.com. For premium listeners only, we're going to have Inside the Trade, going to talk about a couple things we're watching here. And that's today's episode.
And the one thing that's not on your agenda, several times of me yelling at you. You sent me an article this week, and I read the article. And then at the bottom of the article, I read this big, bold text. It says, this content was edited by the foreign production team, but generated with the help of AI. This is amazing, Dougals.
Oh,
it's amazing. So this is the article. We're not even going to dive into the details, but it appears to be from a local NPR station, right? It's kqed.org, right?
Yep,
and it's about Musk and other Silicon Valley billionaires and their play to have more influence in the government. Really interesting stuff. Really, I'm not yelling at you. I find this fascinating. I read through the article. It made sense. I know they quoted decent sources. Obviously, it's edited by a human. But my question for you is, how often is this happening? And is this crew the only one to actually put the subtitle on the bottom of it?
I love the question. I kind of think at this point in time where we are, if AI isn't in some way helping you with your piece, then you have one hand tied behind your back
for no reason, right?
Exactly. Also, to the other extreme, if AI is writing your piece, that's messed up. So there's just the in-between. Just let the thing help. But are they the only ones that are saying it? Maybe.
I mean, the way this reads was generated with the help of AI. Reads like AI wrote the piece. And as a reader, I felt a little scammed by it. Then again, they're a public radio station. Like,
does it specify artificial intelligence? Or could it be that Allen Iverson now has a new job?
It could be that AI.
So if it just says AI, you never know. Or it could be Haley Joel Osment. There's so many possibilities here.
I find that fascinating. And I'm one that believes that 70%, some crazy amount of LinkedIn content is generated by AI these days. Probably Facebook and a bunch of other ones as well. All right. Sorry to get us off task. Go ahead.
That's right. Let's get back to it. Okay, we're going to first wrap up that bow. So last week we talked about private equity, hit on how private equity can't sell the businesses that it needs to sell in order to generate the cash. About 29,000, I believe, was the number of companies that are just sitting in the coffers within private equity. Now what's happened is Yale has said that it is starting to offload private equity assets.
Yeah, so those who don't know should know that David Swenson, who ran the Yale endowment for a long time, had an incredible track record and is like a legend in the field, right? So the Yale endowment is like this whole thing. People build portfolios off the Yale endowment. And one of David's fascinating insights was, hey, an endowment can go on forever, so we can invest. We have a longer time horizon than almost anyone else does. And so we can invest in these things that no one else can invest in and should give us better returns over the course of like 50 to 100 years rather than 8 years. Really cool insight and completely changed how most endowments are run. The fascinating thing about this is then the endowment world has some uncertainty, just like your average investor has some uncertainty, and they need some cash.
That's right.
It appears they need some cash. So whether this is going to be a fire sale or not, I don't think anyone knows. But just last week, we talked about the other challenges with offloading other private equity investments and the public corporations of the world having a hard time doing that. If Yale then comes to the table with an additional $6 billion because they need cash flow, I can't imagine they're going to get a superstar price for this, right?
And to give, I'm interrupting, to give a
Yeah.
little bit of context on when you're talking about the need for cash there, give some context on how much private equity they have. It's about 95% of the endowment was in private equity. So illiquid, 95% illiquid assets that you have. So
yeah, it's huge. And here's where I thought you were going. If people don't know why folks like Yale and Harvard might need cash now, it's because the Trump administration is actively picking a fight there with research dollars. And these universities have huge budgets because typically they've been able to go to the federal government for billions of dollars a year to support research. It's a whole different thing. No, the conclusion for me here, Dougals, is kind of a fascinating one. It's that even some of the richest universities in the world, the richest universities in the world, that thought they hacked the game and said we can do all these illiquid investments to make better returns and that's going to be good for us. Even those providers need a margin of safety because you never know what's going to happen over the course of 100 years. And you're going to get one administration or pandemic or something. There's always going to be something where you're going to need more like cash type investments than you plan for. It's fascinating. I don't think this will change David Swenson's legacy in any way, but it is a really fascinating thing just for your average investor to say that margin of safety that you think you don't need, you actually need. You just don't know what the cause of it's going to be, and you don't know if it's going to happen this decade or next decade.
That's words to live by in general, but especially if you have a $40 billion fund. Agreed.
They wish they were Buffett right now, man. They wish they were sitting on some T-bills.
Okay, you want to transition over to student loan debt repayment?
Yeah, on the way, I want to give a shout out to W. David Marks, who's been on the show. We hope to have him on the show again. He just came out this week, and I'm excited about it because last time we talked to him on the podcast, he said that he's working on a new book and he's super excited about it. So his new book is going to come out November of 2025, and it's called Blank Space: A Cultural History of the 21st Century. I'm a huge fan of his stuff. It's not necessarily investing stuff, but friend of the show, wanted to give that shout out.
Love it. Give the credit where credit's due.
All right, listener mail, hit that jingle, Dougals.
They fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. Fight, 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 fight. The Skippy and Dougals show.
Okay, this came in from Kyle. It's a really fascinating piece. Dougals is I consider you to be an education expert on all facets. And you always have thoughts on student loans and student loan repayment stuff, right? So the Biden administration took a pretty relaxed attitude towards student loan repayment and even tried to cancel some of these things. The Trump administration has recently done the opposite. So this listener mail from Kyle comes from the New York Times, and the headline here is simply, millions of student loan borrowers are behind on their payments. The stat that jumps off the page for me is that only 1/3 of the 38 million Americans who have borrowed money to pay for college or graduate school and should be making payments actually are. That's a weird sentence, but effectively what it says is 1/3 of 38 million people are making their student loan payments right now, which means 2/3 are not. And then we can talk about all the ramifications downstream of that and what it means to the credit scores of people that aren't making those payments. But that stat alone has me floored. I almost can't believe it.
Agreed. And I'm going to back us up for a second. I agree with that point. To give some high-level flavor on the status of student loans in America, because I think everyone probably has some version of the qualitative narrative in their head around it's not good. Currently, where student loans are, not good. We know that like people might have started paying back. There was pushback from when the Biden administration was looking to do loan forgiveness. So like at the qualitative level, I think people have some narrative in their head. But I want to give some quantitative context here. So most of what I'm going to say, just to let you know, most of what I'm going to talk about here is about federal student loans, which represents about 90% of the student loans that are out there. And it's the better data that exists is around federal student loans. So I'm going to go through some facts. Federal student loans, about 90%. Around 43 million Americans have student loans. So I know it's a little bit different than the 38, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's just call it 40. Yeah. Let's call it 40 million people have student loans. There's about $1.6 trillion that's owed in federal student loans. Just let that sit in people's mentals for a second. So when you're talking about the 1/3 of folks that are paying, this is on $1.6 trillion in federal student loans. The average amount is about $38K that people have out there. It's a lot of dollars.
The average? Okay, do you have a median figure, though?
I don't have a median. I know. I knew you were going to say it, too. I don't have the mode.
For those who don't know, the average is going to be skewed by the doctors that have 250
exactly.
student loans. And,
exactly.
Yeah, but, okay.
So median might be more like 30. Something like that. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But the average is 38. All right. Over 5 million borrowers have not made a monthly payment in about a year.
Something. In any other debt situation, that's a massive red flag. I'm sure it's a massive red flag here, but this is all a little different because almost always loans for education do not disappear when you file for bankruptcy, which I have a huge issue with and think should be corrected, but that's just how it is these days.
Yep.
I did not know. I read one of these articles twice a year or whatever, and I'm smacked across the face with the numbers. But I did not know, one, that there was 1 trillion outstanding out there. Two, that less than half of people, significantly less than half of people, are currently making their payments. And we're talking of that third that's making their payments, I'm assuming the large majority are making minimum payments, right? There's very few that are thriving in a way where they're paying this thing off early.
That's right. I mean, you're probably right. Because that's generally how these kinds of things work. So I just wanted to give that context. We can go back to the article specifically, but so folks have that in their minds. We're talking 40 million people. We're talking about 30 to 40K balance that folks have. It's a total of over $1.5 trillion that are sitting out there right now.
Yeah. So where the article goes is, okay, so the Trump administration has a different approach here. I don't think that's good or bad. I almost don't care. It's just the reality of where we are today.
Yep.
And what that means is a lot of people aren't making payments. And what that means for those people who aren't making payments is their credit scores are declining rapidly. If they are also in a position, which typically someone who is a college grad that still has student loans is in that 22 to 40 range, they'd also be trying to buy a house. They might be trying to buy a car. They might be doing all those things. So a negative credit score impacts their ability to afford those things, as it should, because they currently have debt that they cannot pay. Or they currently have liabilities that they are not servicing. So I just think the downstream ramifications of that are fascinating for the economy as a whole.
Yeah. And what I'll add, and we've hit on this so much in the past that I won't spend too much time on it, but right now we're just talking about student loans. And what you were hitting on, there's downstream implications of defaulting here. But that's not the entire debt portfolio that these folks likely have, given the current state of debt for the American consumer. You're talking about credit card debt. You're talking about mortgage debt. You're talking about auto loan payments. Like there's so much different forms of debt. So this $1.5 trillion is just one element of it. And I'm not even getting to the buy now, pay later Coachella tickets out there.
No, I mean, I'm talking burrito bowls over here.
Exactly.
They can't even pay for their Tuesday Chipotle. So
I got my burrito bowl on 17% layaway, bro.
it's funny, and it's also not funny at all.
No, it's not.
Concerning.
Yeah. The only we jest about this because that's a show and we're here for entertainment. That's why we jest about it. These are legitimately human beings, Americans that are here that are sitting on multiple types of debt, multiple types of loans that have been fed to them over the last 15 years. And this is it's different, but it's only like a cousin style different than when folks were fed mortgage debt leading up to the 2008 financial crisis that hit there. Like it's when systems are created such that it's hard for you to understand exactly what you might be getting yourself into, you end up in a place where, I'll buy the Coachella ticket for whatever it ends up being on buy now, pay later. And I'm not even registering that adds to my student loan, to my credit card debt, because it's hard for human beings to be able to systematize things like that. That's all I wanted to say.
Yep, it's fair. We'll try and move away from doom and gloom now. What's next in your fishbowl, Douglas?
Thank you for the listener mail, by the way, Kyle. Appreciate it. Let's go away from doom and gloom, although you're going to bring it back. I know you're going to bring this back to doom and gloom, but I'm going to start off, look at my face. I'm going to start off all bright and sunny with this. YOLO time, baby. We in 2021 meme stock. Where you at up in here? There was this piece in the Wall Street Journal. Oh my goodness. I love like one quote in particular from this. So the piece is called, "I Could Lose It All Tomorrow. The Traders Leaning Into Wild Markets." And what it's about at the high level is that right now, as everybody knows, if you're listening to this podcast, you know this, there's a lot of volatility in the market right now because of the level of uncertainty in the market that exists. And this is vignettes on a few folks that the Wall Street Journal is covering that are completely leaning into that.
Do you know how big how do you even say this? My eyes rolled so massively just when I saw this hit my text message. I can't even handle this. I don't want to read an article about how I could lose it all tomorrow. Traders are leaning into the wild markets. No, lean out. Go do something else. Go pay off your student loans or something. I'm so sick of this. Go ahead.
Okay, so there are a few vignettes in here. I'll do this quickly because I know you want to get away from it anyway. I'll do this quickly. There's this one vignette on this guy who has 90% of his $1 million plus, I think it says 7 figures, so I don't know exactly how much it is, plus portfolio in Bitcoin. That alone wanted me, I was like, can they put his number in the article? Because I want to give this brother a call. Because I just need to I need to talk him down. But then this quote, here's a quote from him. Love it. I love everything about this quote. Quote, "That's what I'm after. Making decades of returns in weeks or months. I truly think volatility is where fortunes are made."
I mean, go for it, dude. I'm actually going to defend not this guy, but I'm going to defend. Let's bring it back to startups versus grinding away for 40 years with a Fortune 500 company, right?
Okay. All right. Do it.
You can work in startup land, and you have, Dougals, and you can roll through your startups that raise Series A, Series B, and the odds are not in your favor for cashing that lotto ticket to go big. But if you understand the game you're playing, if you understand that you're trying to catch lightning in a bottle and like do this thing, and if you land at the next Google and you start there at Series A, like you're made, right? That's a fine approach. I think that's what this dude is trying to say with Bitcoin. I just hope he understands.
What?
I know it's a stretch. But no, you know the difference. You could take that approach. You could go startup to startup until one fails or until one succeeds, and it's kind of like holding a lottery ticket over and over. Or you can be like, you can go get the job at Google today, not Google after Series A, and you can collect really nice checks for 40 years. And you have a lot more certainty about what's happening in your life. Is my analogy just crazy here?
I can't even push back hard enough. I don't have the physical strength to push back hard enough on what you just threw out there. Here's what I'll say. If you're listening right now to this, Bitcoin man, I truly think volatility is where fortunes are made. Here's what I'll say to you. You should go off and look up a gentleman named Jesse Livermore and go read a book called Reminiscences. What is that word? Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. Go read the book. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well.
He made some money along the way, though.
No, exactly. Because volatility is where fortunes you can get decades of returns in weeks or months. You can. Days. But there's a downside. There's a downside. Volatility is also where fortunes are lost.
Yeah. Here's my favorite quote from the priest. This is from my boy, Patrick Whelan.
Oh, you love
The
Patrick
kids
Whelan.
these days. The kids these days say, "No risk, no Rari." Now me, my head is exploding going, "What's a Rari?" Luckily, the Wall Street Journal has my back and tells me that a Rari is slang for Ferrari, right? So he is a content creator and day trader who in recent weeks has poured thousands of dollars into ProShares Ultra QQQ, which is a triple levered ETF on the NASDAQ. I mean, I can guarantee this guy's going bust. My dude, Patrick.
No risk, no Rari.
Patrick, if you're listening right now, to the listener mail, I'll send you a gift card for Chipotle. So when you have no money, you at least can have a burrito. All right?
You can go with Mikhail Bridges to Chipotle on us.
That's right. And the thing, you did that. You set me up again. You do this every week.
Yeah,
The thing that drives me crazy about this is even if Patrick ends up with a Ferrari, it's going to be like... He's going to think he's a genius. His his followers are going to think he's a genius. It's going to be like a 1 in a million chance that he was just dumb enough to bet on a triple levered. Yeah. Patrick's killing me.
So page 1 of Patrick's book, autobiography, it says no risk, no Rari. If you flip to page 2, it says all risk, also no Rari. Okay. All right. Let's transition. This may last only 1 minute. There was a timepiece talks about Trump's first 100 days. So in time, Trump's first 100 days. I only want to say one quote from this just to fire up what we've hit on many times historically, and we were given the definition of a tariff. To say, this is not what a tariff is. What I'm about to say is just not what a tariff is. That's all I want to do here, okay? You don't get fired up about it. That's all I want to do. So in this, it's a quote from the president, Donald J. Trump. I am this giant store, he tells Time. It's a giant, beautiful store, and everybody wants to go shopping there. And on behalf of the American people, I own the store, and I set prices, and I'll say, if you want to shop here, this is what you have to pay. Again, I only say this to say, when we are setting tariffs on other countries, that is not the price that they have to pay. That is the price that we have to pay. I just want to be clear on that. It's a much worse talking point to say that, but that is the truth. The only reason I wanted to bring it up. Do you want to go on to the next topic?
Yes, no comment.
Okay. All right. So last topic before we hit Inside the Trade. Again, remember, Inside the Trade for premium listeners, skipyoudougal's.supercast.com. Before we get there, I want to talk about expectations. You sent me over this pod episode from Morgan Housel. I listened to that, and it just started sparking thoughts for me. And so I want to talk about expectations in general. You want to talk about the Morgan?
Yeah, I'll set the
piece?
stage. So
Yeah.
Morgan, his podcast and his writing this week has been focused on Levittown, which is, there were a bunch of Levittowns, right? And the way this happens is right after World War II, 16 million service members come home, right? And they come home to a different country that's the manufacturing capital of the world. I mean, the rest of the Western world is in ruins from war, right? And the U.S. is not.
Yeah.
So there's plentiful jobs that everyone's having 3.5 kids, not your 2.3 kids. Like, it's a big deal.
Yep.
And
Yep.
this guy, I believe his name was Sam Levitt, had this epiphany that what was going to happen, people were so sick of being cooped up in these tiny spaces as they were throughout the Great Depression, because you're just making it by. And if your neighbor's house is repossessed, you guys live in the same house. You know, like, people crave space. They crave their own plot of land. So he starts buying up suburban farmland. There's no suburbs at the time, really, but he creates the suburbs by buying farmland closely adjacent to the city, takes advantage of new interstates being built. It's this perfect idyllic moment in time where the U.S. is basically the strongest economy in the world and will be for the next 20 years. And people can have their dream. At that time, their dream was a lot that's about 6,000 square feet, very small by today's standards, and a
Sorry,
house.
no, hold on. Very important. 600 square feet.
No. That's the lot size. Lot size,
okay,
6,000 square feet. Home size, 700 square feet. I think.
Okay, all right. Okay,
right. So you might have 4 kids and 2 adults in 700 square feet. It's this thing, but when people dream about the past, and this is why it ties into expectations, they dream of this perfect suburban home that, by today's standards, is almost like the slums. I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but this is where Morgan goes. No air conditioning, no garage, a lot that's much smaller, and maybe 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. It's not the McMansions that people think of as standard today that are 2,500 square feet, 3 to 4 bedroom, multiple bathrooms, garage, AC, et cetera, right? It's so important to reset, and just Morgan does an incredible job at saying, hey guys, the talking point of the moment seems to be that we want to go back to a manufacturing community. But do you really want to go back to this? It's like the surveys today that say, do you support the U.S. having more manufacturing jobs? And like 20% of Americans do. And then they say, would it be good for you to have a manufacturing job? And like 6% of respondents say, yeah, I want a manufacturing job. I mean, there's this disconnect of like, that sounds great for someone else, but it doesn't sound great for me. And I think Morgan's entire podcast here, I really thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. And go ahead.
Before I come back to this, the thing that just popped in my mind that's similar in like a NIMBY-ish kind of way is when I give talks and education comes up, and there was the narrative around how the degree is not, it's not the end all be all. It's not great. There's like all this narrative that ends up coming up in this conversation. So what I end up doing is I'll say, okay, show of hands, right? If you're able to raise your hand, show of hands to folks in the audience who believes that the 4-year degree is not what we should be after. And nearly all the hands will go up. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So the 4-year degree, that's not what we should be after. Cool. Please leave your hand up if you have a 529 for your children. Nearly all the hands stay up. And I go, okay, so, right? Very similar thing. You go, so there's some like them.
Yeah.
There's some like they don't need the 4-year degree, but I'm still going to do that thing. And that's kind of like here. Yeah, we need manufacturing. No, I'm not doing it. Like I ain't getting my hands dirty. Very, very similar thing. Here's something I've been saying for a long period of time. I don't remember where it comes from, so I'm going to call this a Dougal's quote because I just don't remember it. Happiness equals reality minus expectations. Happiness equals reality minus expectations. So what that means is if you take the right side of that equation, you get expectations, and if your expectations are bigger than your reality, you end up with negative happiness. And so the expectations is so important here because back in the day, to recap something you said, back in the day, people described these Levittown homes as utopia. 700 square feet, no basement, no garage, no air conditioning. Now, the average home size is like around 2,000 square feet. And people are talking about how miserable everything is. There's this quote,
there's the easy fix. We just need the Great Depression and everything will be great.
Yeah, because everything was great after that. Everything was great after that. That's all we need. That's all we need. So we just finished the 3rd season of White Lotus. And I'm not going to, this is no spoiler alerts going to come from this. So if y'all want to watch it, go watch it. I'm not going to spoil anything. But there's a quote from there that relates to this that I want to bring up. For background on those who have not watched White Lotus represents it's this hotel chain that is like your top of the line, very, very high end. Think of it like, I don't know, the highest end 4 Seasons kind of thing, right? Like that's what a White Lotus is. So this is someone staying in this hotel who is raised by the prospect of not having money. And they say, I just don't think at this age I'm meant to live an uncomfortable life. The reason why that stuck with me is because they're staying in this hotel, and the idea of less than this is uncomfortable. Like, not even less comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where they are is the pinnacle. And this gets back to something that Morgan wrote that we brought up on the show 2 months ago, 3 months ago, a few months ago. I can't remember when it was. But Morgan was saying that we've gotten so contented in the U.S. that any little discomfort throws you off because expectations. If your expectations are that. Yeah, go.
No, I mean, vacations and travel are the perfect example of this.
Yeah.
Some people think hopping in a minivan and making it to a place less extravagant than Disneyland is like the world's greatest luxury. And some people will only stay at the Four Seasons and will be upset if their San Pellegrino is not on ice when they roll into the room. You know, like there's just this massive, like Grand Canyon size gap in terms of people's expectations when they travel. And I follow you. It's a good illustration.
Yeah. The last thing I'll touch on here before we transition over is at one point Morgan talks about the idea of perception and how it's you can't see what you can't describe that you can see. I don't know. No, that's not the right way to say it.
Oh, no. Let me jump in. So he apparently there's a surgery that happened for 5 people, and it was like a LASIK type thing where somehow they changed the retina. So they unlocked a brand new color that these people can see that no one else can see. This resonates with me greatly because I'm colorblind. And so I always am having the debate with someone of like, the pink I see might be a totally different pink than you, but that makes it beautiful for me and it might make it ugly for you. Like that's true with everyone. But with these people specifically, they effectively unlocked a color that no other human should be able to see. And so the debate around how you explain that experience, what it looks like, is fascinating because there's no answer key. Like you're just going to have to trust the person that can see something you can't see.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for describing that. That was perfect. And I have lots of books on this episode. I have another book recommendation for folks. It's called An Immense World. It's by Ed Young. And this book is about how animals perceive the world. So it goes through all different types of animals and it goes through all the senses. So it's vision, touch, how like alligators feel the water. It's fascinating if you love animals. And also the reason I bring it up here is because when I left this book, when I finished it, the thought that came to my mind was around the same concept that Morgan House was talking about, is when I am with another human being and we are reading the same sentence, we're actually reading different sentences. Because when I read that sentence, I bring into account my whole backstory, my experiences, like the way I interpret a certain word because of what happened when I was 9 and someone said the same word. Like there's all this stuff that comes into it. But it's easy to think that when I read the sentence and when you read the sentence, we see the same thing. And so our disagreement is about the sentence when it might not be. It's about whatever else. Like when I look at a beautiful stock and you look at a beautiful stock, you might see ugliness and I see wonder. Same kind of thing because I see its truth and you see its falsehoods.
There's so many beautiful stocks.
So many beautiful stocks. All right. I think that's a wrap. I think that's a wrap for our standard episode. Am I right? Anything else you want to hit on?
No, that's it. If you want to listen to Inside the Trade episodes, which we've been doing more frequently and all the other premium stuff, hit skippydouglas.supercast.com and support the show. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody. Premium listeners, please stick around.